the Anvil Hawk, a light fighter specialised for one thing: bounty hunting. The perfect smaller ship for bringing those dirty scumbag criminals to justice. And if you're one of those dirty scumbag criminals, you better learn to keep an eye out for these things, because you'll probably be seeing a lot of them. We're going to take a close-up look at the ship, talk about all its weaponry, how it could be used, and what its role is going to be within the Persistence universe later down the line. So let us get up close and personal with the Anvil Hawk. As you can see, it is kind of bird-like in its design, as you might expect. The wings especially, being folded back like this, do give it that birdie edge. So all of you Star Citizen ornithologists are covered. Around the back we've got our little prison cell that we can pop a prisoner in back there once we've knocked them out and subdued them. We'll have a look in that later on. Symmetrical on the other side, of course. The feet, again, reminiscent of an actual bird, kind of skinny pole legs with a wider base. And you'll notice the red tinted glass on the cockpit, which I think looks damn awesome. Really gives it that policey sort of vibe. Got some nice big vents on the front. You can see that red tinted glass there. And of course on the top. So that's something a little bit different. I don't think there's any other ships with red tinted glass. And then we get in from underneath. So you'll open the exterior, and then when you want the seat, it'll drop down and you'll get in it and it'll take you back up. Kind of like a little elevator, but we'll get in it in a minute. We've got these little scanner looking things on the front, perhaps going to hold some of our fancy scanners or lights to help us spot our targets and hunt them down. One of those on each side, perhaps meaning that the Hawk will have better scanning than other light fighter ships as things get added to the game. But yeah, you get a general feel of the Hawk. It's a little bit different than most other light fighter ships that generally have the sort of fighter jet look to them. So it's nice to see something a little bit more futuristic and a little bit different from those usual ships. It looks a bit messy around the back, but this is just the landing gear. It goes up in there when you take off, so it looks nice and tidy, just a long tube at the back with your prisoner cell right on the end of it. As you can see, we can open this up. We'll be able to stuff our prisoner in there once we've captured them somehow. I'll get in it myself just to show you. It's like some sort of electric chair. We'll jump on in. And assuming you're restrained at this point, you get shoved in here. No windows, no TV. You're going to have a very boring travel time if you're a player being captured in this thing. So just pretty much a coffin. A big old steel coffin, or whatever the hell this ship is made from. So yeah, that's going to keep your prisoner restrained, allowing you to drop them off at wherever the hell you got to drop the bounty off. You can log out, actually. You can double it up as a bed. That's the other thing about it. Not sure it's going to be the comfiest bed in the world, as it is a prisoner chair. You probably want to make it, you know, a little bit stressful for the prisoner by making it uncomfortable. But there you go, there's the prisoner cell, where you should be able to stuff your subdued prisoner eventually when it comes into the game. Around the back we got some of our thrusters, some of our weapons. We've got this strange looking weapon wheel with some of our M4A cannons on the bottom. We'll look at the weapons in a second. Just let you admire the parts of the ship for now. And that, to be honest, is the most of it. So a really nice design on this. I really like it. Like I said, I think it's a bit different than most other light fighter ships. And the red tinted glass just making it look a little bit different as well. Like I say, a more authoritative police sort of look than other ships. Now you can see just on the nose of the ship here, some other little scanner looking type things, maybe lights, just things to aid us in finding our targets. Now let's go ahead and jump in this mother. So you'll see the seat comes down, you jump on in, and up we go. So one of the first things you notice, I think, about the cockpit is that there's a good amount of visibility. A lot of big windows. We can look for our targets all over the place, so not too obstructed like some ships can be. We can see far and wide. And then we do have the little window on the floor as well to help us with our ground searches. We got 4 screens. Eject in the middle. Got to be careful not to eject when you use the exit ship button, as I've done a few times. Let's turn her on. We got 4 screens, radar in the middle. Pretty simple. Clean, maybe a police car vibe, authoritative. We've got an EMP in this, of course, which is off by default, so you do have to turn it on if you want to use the EMP, but we'll get to that in a bizzle. So we've got our screens, of course. You can customize them like any other ship. And yeah, let's take her off. I'll just show you the landing gear going away so you can see her in a true form. She transitions to an elegant bird of prey. So she is indeed a bit of a looker, but how does she fly? Well, pretty much like any other light fighter really. At the moment they're all kind of similar. Very fast, very agile, good acceleration. The perfect combo for catching fleeing targets, of course. And as much as I'd like to talk about fuel tanks and thrusters and power plants and radars and coolers and all that stuff, it doesn't really matter too much in the game at the moment in 3.4.2. So we won't go into that because there probably isn't much point because it's all going to change. Although one thing I will say is that the fuel tank does seem pretty small in this. It took a quarter of the fuel tank, it went down to 75% simply leaving Hurston. Getting out of Hurston's atmosphere is a long way at the moment, and that took 25% of the fuel from the Hawk. So that's kind of a lot just to leave a planet's atmosphere. So we'll see how that goes. Obviously there's plenty of time for things to change, but it doesn't really matter too much at the moment. Very rarely will you be out long enough. This is obviously not an explorer, you're not going to be travelling far and wide. At least not yet, but of course we can always just refuel up, so it's not a big deal either way, but nothing worse than running out of fuel in the middle of a bounty hunt chase, of course. Now let's move on to the important stuff, the weapons. M4A laser cannons, it's got 2 of them on the top, 2 of them underneath, so 4 energy weapons going on there. That's going to be sucking the power from this thing, which is of course going to be a factor in power management. There's also 2 sucker punch distortion cannons on the front. These are fantastic for wearing down enemy shields quickly, but again, going to force us to be a little bit conservative with our power because we're using so much of it in all aspects of our ship. And you can see here when I press the mouse button once, I fire everything together, which is nice and tidy. If I hold the mouse button though, it starts to go out of sync a little bit, and the auto cannons will fire before or after the sucker punch, so it doesn't really marry up too well. Got to try and get everything to land together, pick those shots wisely and make them count. That's also going to help with the power management because we're not going to be constantly pushing the ship. And of course then we've got our good old EMP, but how this is really going to be effectively used we'll have to see in the future because at the moment it just knocks the shields off a bit. But it is going to be a big part of the Hawk, I'm sure, because how the hell are we going to catch people and subdue them without killing them unless the EMP is going to knock their ship out. So interesting to see how that one develops. It does of course knock off your shields when you use the EMP, so you do have to be careful with it. You can't just spam it all over the place because you're going to leave yourself vulnerable. The Hawk is a light fighter after all, can't take a ton of punishment, so got to rely on those shields. But there are plenty of opportunities to make good use of the EMP currently. You can see me coming in on an AI bounty here. I've got my EMP charged at 100%, so all I've got to do is time it properly and we should be able to hit him. The AI is a bit broken at the moment, so they don't really move around, but you can imagine this is just someone floating in space. Let's say this is a player bounty. I'm sneaking up on him, going to come up, drop the EMP, whip out his shields nice and quick, and then try to get that damage in before his shields can recharge. And this is a Hornet, and it goes down in about 3 or 4 hits, most of it landing, and down it goes. Bounty neutralized. Of course, if that was a player really, we probably want to try and take him alive, but you can see how quickly it went down by weakening them with the EMP and then blasting them with the cannons, all over in a matter of seconds. So you can see with all the energy weapons and the distortion cannons and the EMP, the Hawk is really designed for taking out the enemy shields and disabling their ship so we can capture the pilot, rather than just outright blowing them up and killing them. If that's what we wanted to do, we have missiles. That's the thing about the Hawk, there are no missiles. So it's not a straight up dogfighter, it's not really designed to be taking out other ships, we're trying to disable them. Medium fighters, heavy fighters, going to be a real struggle for it to take down if the goal is to blow those ships up. So that's a little bit of how things may play out in space as a bounty hunter, but what about down on the ground? I imagine there to be an element of tracking with trying to find your target. So here, for example, I've had a little tip off of where the enemy is. I've found his ship. He's got to be somewhere around here. I'm going to scan things to get a bit of information. There's a small building there. He's likely in there. I'm going to go ahead and try to get myself out of the way, hide my ship away so he can't see me landing. So he doesn't know that I'm coming, of course. The element of surprise going to be pretty important for bounty hunters, I imagine. And I'd like to think eventually the Hawk will get some better scanners and a better radar for helping track people down. We've obviously got this window on the floor, but I mean from a distance it's pretty much useless. So going to need some more efficient tracking tools, I think. And we don't just really want something that sits on the player and just shows us where they are at all times, because that'll make it a little bit too easy. Not much fun in that. So we can have this sort of thing, sneaking up on the enemy, trying to make our way to him. He could be in his own little bunker over here, his own little house, his little lab, whatever. We can spy it. Try and get some eyes on him. We'll move up. Make our way around the building. Still see if we can get some eyes on him. Head on into the building. And this bounty is for the infamous Dingo Baby Eater. Well known for abducting babies from around the galaxy and munching them down. Truly a terrible, terrible individual. But we shall find him here. There he is. Up to no good. There you go. He's just ordered another baby online. No sir, you're under arrest. You got some kind of jack in the box there, what is that? Oh mate, nah, come on, there's no need for that. Just, there's no need to be rude. The game's up. Alright? You're under arrest. You're coming with me. So ideally, eventually we should have some kind of stunning weapon so we can just creep up on people and knock them out. Hopefully subdue them, restrain them, tie them up, whatever. And then we can either drag them or get them to walk to our ships like so. At gunpoint, maybe that would work. If they were restrained, they could try and run, but you could shoot them down. But obviously some kind of stun baton or something like that, or stun gun, taser, whatever. And then whether we walk them or drag them to our ship, we can then make use of our little prisoner seat in the back of our Hawk, or as I like to call it, the Hawk hole. Get in the Hawk hole, boy. In he goes. Of course, we'll be able to put him in there ourselves. So your prisoner is safely in there, your bounty is collected. All you got to do now is get him back to whoever the hell wants him, and then that should be money in the bag. So that's sort of a vision I have for bounty hunting. It's very simple at the moment. It tells you literally where the target is, you just go there and kill it. So it's the most basic level bounty hunting at the moment, but it's a start, right? We've got to start somewhere. Hopefully the system evolves into something better. But yeah, there you go, the Anvil Hawk. Purely a bounty hunter ship, not really a straight fighter, so if you're looking for one of those, you may want to look elsewhere. But you've got some unique features in this that will hopefully become more unique as the game progresses. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the future.